Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Jocelyn Whipple, and I am a TA for LSAT Unplugged with Steve Schwartz. Tonight, I will be your host for this hour. During this interview, please feel free to ask questions in the chat. If you wish to remain anonymous, please send the questions directly to me. And then with that being said, let me introduce our guest for this evening. It is my pleasure to welcome to the LSAT Unplugged community, Jordan. Jordan graduated cum laude from UCLA with a BA in political science, whoop, whoop, a fellow poli-sci major. Jordan returned to DC and went straight to Howard University School of Law, where she's a rising 2L. And Jordan also has a YouTube channel called Jorwish, where she documents her life, including her law school experience. Welcome, Jordan, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So I'm so excited. I've spent some time in the DMV area, had a couple internships there, visited Howard just a little bit, met one of the professors there, gave me some life-changing advice. So y'all are really some good people, and you guys actually care, like really care about people. So with that being said, can you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and why law? Why go into law?
Yes, well, I have wanted to go to law school for a really long time. It was just a set thing for me, but I think leading up to junior year of college is when I really started to get serious about it. That's when you kind of buckle down and get into the LSAT. But why law? I really want to help people. I grew up in some multiple situations where we just had like legal knowledge or just a lawyer in the family. I think the circumstances would have been a bit different. Also, just being someone who's just an agent for change, I think that just learning the law, even through my 1L experience, that even though I barely know anything after 1L, but I still feel like I've opened myself to a whole new way of thinking and just different way of seeing the world where I feel like I can use the law as a tool to help people as well.
That's awesome. And just agent for change, I think is key in this moment. There's a lot happening, and a lot of young Black folks particularly are like, hey, something needs to happen. The system is broken and we need to fix it, right? And so we have to jump in and be the change that we want to see. So with that being said, is it true that you want to be a prosecutor or something of that nature? Is that where you're wanting to head towards ultimately?
No, I'm not too sure about what I want to do specifically, but I kind of just see myself probably not a prosecutor, not off like the top of my head, but right now I'm probably going to intern at a firm and just see like all the different areas of law, and then try to also during the school year work with like a judge, and then try to get involved in clinics as well. But there's so much, like so many possibilities, so I don't want to limit myself too soon. But yeah, so I don't have like a direct path yet.
Okay, I totally get that. So with that being said, so you started this journey on YouTube. So why did you decide, what was your motivating factor in like deciding to document your journey? Which I, for one, I've been watching your videos, and thank you. It's been really helpful just to know that, you know, I'm not alone. Like there are thousands of Black women, Black men out there that are documenting their journeys and, you know, are getting that support. We all are facing the same struggles, just in some ways, a different shape or form, but we're still connected.
Yeah, well, I started my YouTube channel like a really long time ago, probably like officially, I would say like freshman year of college. And so I've just been documenting like my college experience. And so it was really natural for me to also document law school. But I think like the law school videos have been like a lot, you know, I've been getting a lot of attraction for that. And I think it's also just something that a lot of people don't talk about, at least the people that I was around. Like I didn't see too many people on YouTube documenting their law school experience. And I kind of went into the process super blind, super like, I don't know what I'm getting into. So I just thought documenting it, putting it on YouTube, it would definitely help other people not have to go in so like unaware of what they're getting into, and to just learn from my mistakes and everything that I'm doing, because that's, what I think YouTube is for. I watch a lot of YouTube as well, and it really does help me out. And it's also nice for memories just to look back. So yeah, it's really fun for me as well. Thanks for watching too. That's so cool.
Yes, totally. I'm always looking for Black YouTubers to kind of give me insight, especially saw your hair tutorials. I was like, I'm gonna try some products, gonna, see what's going on because you see all this hair that I have. So, I'm always looking for like, really good products and different things of that nature. And I think that's like part of like the community, right? That's being built, which is, I think, something that people are not necessarily recognizing that's happening, but it's definitely taking off. So let's talk a little bit about like your admissions process, just as in general. You talked about how like you didn't really have any attorneys in your family. Same. When my aunt finally did go to law school, like, I was starting my process as far as thinking about law school. So I didn't really have, she didn't have anyone, definitely, but having her now that she's like completed law school has kind of like helped a bit. So can you talk about the challenges that you faced, sort of navigating this space? 'Cause, looking at the statistics, Black applicants are having the hardest time navigating the admissions process, whether it's, financial barriers or whether it's the lack of information, like you stated, that you just kind of were not necessarily threw yourself into this process, but you were like looking for answers and did not necessarily know where to look. And I found that as well. So were you able to find like support in navigating those challenges in your admissions process? Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Yes, definitely. I think I had all the challenges that you probably had, and most students have as well. And financial barriers, definitely, because the application fees add up, and it's not only the application fees. There's all these extra hidden fees that LSAC has as well. So it's like, okay, you budget for the application fee. Boom, there's like, I think see something, an extra fee. So financial barriers, definitely. Also, at UCLA, they have a program, because when you tell people you're pre-law, a lot of times they'll say, oh, do this program. This program helps pre-law. At least that's how I was at my undergrad. And I didn't get into the program. And so I was just like, okay, I'm really alone. Like I really can't, I need some help. Like, should I still go to law school? Is this a sign? So I was definitely just feeling like I shouldn't do it. And also, I think another thing is timing as well. I don't think I knew too much about how important the timing was for law school admissions, because it kind of comes by a little very quickly, especially if you're trying to go straight through. So I think something that helped me was just meeting people who are older than me. One of my closest friends, she's now a 2L at UC Irvine. And so I was just a year under her, shadowing her process. But it really is just that, like just shadowing each other, because she also didn't have attorneys in her family, but I'm like following her path. And we also still go back and forth with each other, just helping each other out. So I think that's another thing that I'm trying to do with my channel, is it's really just following people and just seeing how to navigate it. That's kind of how I did it. Definitely winging it, which is what I do a lot of the time, but it worked out. And yeah, I think a challenge is really just that support, because it's not that common for people to go to law school. So I think, going to college, that's already a hard, to get that application in, but it is more common and a lot more people do it. And there's probably more resources out there, but law school is a pretty tailored niche and it's different. So that was definitely a challenge for me, but just seeing other people who have done it before me and, putting myself out there and just cold emailing people, what do I do with this? And just like asking as many people as you can and not being afraid to ask people, because that's the only way you'll get the answer. You don't want to just sit there helpless. So yeah.
Definitely. So what I think I'm hearing from you, tell me if this is kind of like a fair assessment, that you were kind of like, I have nothing to lose really. I have everything to gain and nothing to lose. And
Yeah,
reaching
you
out to
just go for
people,
it.
definitely. Okay, so I think we're on the same page with that. So you talked about support. One of your videos you talked about mentoring, right? And the mentoring that I guess you were seeking at the time was before you had actually started. So I think you had already been accepted into Howard. but you hadn't necessarily started your 1L experience. So can you talk a little bit about finding mentors and what you were looking for and the challenges that you were experiencing with finding like a mentor?
Yes, it's so hard to kind of find a mentor when you're looking for one, but then it's like all of a sudden you realize, oh wait, I guess they are kind of a mentor to me as well. So at Howard, you get assigned a mentor. That happens like during orientation. So every student is assigned like a 2 or 3L to like be our buddy. And I'm literally gonna meet my mentor after this meeting. So we're pretty cool. And that has definitely been like a godsend for my whole experience. I literally owe them all, like everything. So yeah, I think also people who became mentors were um people that I knew who went to UCLA who graduated from Howard Law. Reached out to them as well just to ask for advice. My friend, like I said, who is only a year older than me, but I definitely still go to her for help since she's gone through everything before me. Sorry, I'm kind of blanking. You said how did I find a mentor? And then what
So
do
I
I
w- no, so I was asking like what were the challenges? So you kind of like alluded to it in your video talking about the fact that you wanted like a mentor and you were like looking for one, but it was so
uh
hard. But then you transition in our conversation. You were stating that actually Howard, pairs you up with a mentor, which I think is amazing. And I think you were getting at the point that when you're kind of looking for a mentor, but you're not. So when you stop kind of hard going all out and looking blatantly for a mentor, you actually were able to get one and find one that has been helpful and very supportive. Is that correct?
Yes, but I was struggling. I would say summer before law school, I really wanted to find a mentor because I was like, okay, I've gotten help this far and now I just need, another helping hand. And I was cold emailing people. I was like DMing people on Instagram, like, hey, like I see you're like this amazing like attorney, like da da da. And I was literally getting nothing back, like no response. Or I would then email someone who I knew the person. And then they would say, yeah, they're still not responding to me. And I was just like, okay, this is another brick wall here. What am I going to do? And it can be really discouraging when you can't find a mentor. But like I was saying earlier, that sometimes you'd be surprised how the relationships will form. And I definitely think it's better and more long lasting when it does kind of happen organically. So doesn't have to be someone who is in your direct like career path. I know I've gotten advice before, like, oh, you should be mentored by someone like you want to be, or like some life that you want to get and just learn from them. But I kind of disagree with that. I think it's someone who can just help you out and even just be a support system. It doesn't have to only be law school stuff. It can literally just be an ear to listen to you vent, anything like that. And just someone older than you who can just be there to guide you and just let you know that it's okay. Those days where you think it's the end of the world, but someone who's older than you, they'll say, look, it's literally nothing. Like you're still going to be fine. So I would say to do that as well. But I think mentorship is important, but I think it's better for it to happen organically, not always just cold emailing for that type of stuff, because at least for me, it didn't really work out. But after I started forming like natural relationships with people, it just ended up happening. But I will still cold email, but it just didn't happen like that for me.
Understood, understood. So folks out there, especially my Black and brown applicants, there is a mentor for you out there in the world, right? So let's shift gears just a little bit and let's talk about all things Howard. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations on completing your 1L. I saw you persevere. I saw in your videos that you were like definitely being strategic in your scheduling, making sure that you were parsing out enough time to hammer those cases and memorize, right? Learn your cases, memorize all of those things. And you had a lot of cases and things and material to parse through. I was like, girl, Lord help you, send it positive labs your
Thank
way.
you.
But
Thank
I
you.
realized that you like uploaded the video after the fact. So I was like, okay, it's already done. It's already done. It's already done. So it's all good. So I like to like ask you kind of like like what attracted you to Howard, particularly dealing with like social justice. And like I know that Howard is like one of the ultimate safe spaces for Black folks. And I think in one of the videos that you mentioned, you were tired of being the only one. And that was one of the deciding factors, right? Since you had been at a PWI, correct? Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about, the culture and the community of Howard, um, as it's been helping you to rise, right? Especially during this moment.
Yes, definitely. That was like my number one reason for choosing Howard, is that I wanted to be in a really comfortable space. And I think a lot of people should take that into consideration with studying something like the law. It can be very, well, you can get taught very differently, and I wanted to be taught at Howard. So at UCLA, it's only, I think like it was 4%, but I think I checked yesterday and it's down to 3% Black. So,
Oh,
and when you take out like, because I wasn't a student athlete, so when you take that out, it's really, really, really small percentage of Black people. But compared to where I went to high school, honestly, UCLA still had more Black people than that. So I was like, okay, I was comfortable with that. But as like more things started happening in the news, I kind of got, like you said, tired of being the only Black person, realizing that that's probably going to be how it is going to be for a good while, and I can't always control that, thinking that in my head initially. And then just, I kind of just got fed up with a lot of the microaggressions. I knew I wanted to come back to DC as well. And everything just kind of started pointing me into the direction of Howard, and going there, I really can say that I'm glad that I made that decision. Again, I'm not sure how it is at other law schools, but from like those few people that I know who go to different ones, I can tell our experience is pretty different. And it's the little things. It's like, okay, before torts class, we're having like a jam session with playing some music if we know we've just got some wild news the night before, or just having those times where we can just literally discuss how it is to be a Black person right now in DC when there's like all this havoc happening outside. And just to have like that fellow camaraderie, I was surprised that it even had that effect on me virtually, so I can only imagine how it is in person. But it's great. And yeah, it's truly great, especially now like graduation season. I'm really getting like in the field. I'm like, wow, like they're really about to be out there in the world, a whole attorney, like wow. So yeah, it's definitely nice. And I think also having Black professors is another like amazing thing. I didn't have that many Black professors at UCLA. I think I might have had two. So in my whole 4 years, and I have had like majority, not only just Black professors, but Black women as well teaching me this stuff. And it's truly great. Yeah.
definitely. Well, this kind of ties into, I guess, your background, right? Where you not only studied political science, but you were into, what was it? I think it was like intersectionality with race,
Yeah.
cultures, gender. Am I correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I concentrated my political science in race, ethnicity, and politics.
Race, ethnicity, and politics. Okay, because that's actually kind of my background as well. And so I was very, yes. So I was very like intrigued by the fact that you went definitely the Howard route, and it made the most sense, right? Because Howard is definitely that hub. So with that being said, like, what can folks expect for their first year at Howard Law? I know it's been a bit crazy because it's been a non-traditional, I'll say that non-traditional, I guess, experience for 1L because of COVID-19. And I saw that, you definitely were enjoying your time behind the screen and, not necessarily, and, being able to do the pajama thing and whatnot. So I was like, okay, that's cool. I can work with that. So can you tell us kind of what would one should one expect for their first year?
I think you should just expect a lot of reading. And it doesn't hit you until like maybe week 4 or 5. Like they do kind of gradually, at least my section. You should expect a lot of reading. You should expect a lot of people probably trying to play it up, honestly, like just trying to make it seem like they're doing everything, and that competitive spirit that's all law school. But I think you should also expect to just really go in, like change your entire mindset. Like, I don't know if I'm being dramatic, but it's just amazing how like the way I think is totally different. It's just weird how it's truly like, wow, like it works. When you learn like the legal way of breaking things down, I don't think there's a way to go back from that. So definitely IRAC method is ingrained in me now. And you should expect to make friends. I kind of went into law school not even thinking that it would be that much of a social thing, but I've met some incredible people, even virtually. And it's super cool to think that because we're all probably going to be coworkers or colleagues in the future. So it's nice to know that, I'm actually cool with you for real in real life too.
Definitely, definitely. So you said having like a social life. So I kind of thought going into law school, you probably had not have a social life. But I saw like you not only have a social life, somewhat of a social life. I don't want to like play it up too much because you had to like definitely work, definitely like study and definitely, be disciplined, right? And how you were handling your business, but you were able to do that. And so with that being said, can you talk a little bit about like class size, right? And how you were able to engage with your professor. I remember one video where you shared that like being on Zoom, you were able to like it was almost like a one-to-one situation where the professor was kind of like speaking to you directly. And you were able to ask questions, you didn't feel fearful or intimidated. And for some people, they might not necessarily like that, but for you, it really worked well. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so we're split up into sections. In my section, it was about like 50 to 55 people, somewhere in between that range. I'm not sure the exact number. And that's who I took all of my classes with all at the same time. We just switched Zoom links literally throughout the day. But I think that you really have to be focused online school and probably in real class too. You have to be focused on what the professor is telling you to do. But for me, virtually, I could really just hone in. I wasn't distracted by what the person next to me was doing or if someone walked in the classroom late. So, just trying to find like the positive things about it, glass half full. And I was very comfortable with just asking questions, but I think it's also just my personality. I'm just like, I'll ask, like, I'm not gonna, but I definitely still had those moments where I was nervous to ask. And I think it'll be different to see how it is next year because we won't just all be in sections because, by the end of it, like my people in my section, like we're all like a little family because, you're not going to get embarrassed. We're all together all the time anyways, but next year I'll be in classes with people from different sections and also 3Ls. So I might be like a bit more shy, but I just kind of had my eye on the prize and I was like, look, I got to get this information. And you really have to be an advocate, especially in a virtual space, because there's already can be so much miscommunication when things aren't in person, email traffic flowing left and right. It's hard. You miss one email and you just feel so lost. So I definitely tried to make sure the time that I could have direct communication with my professors that I took advantage of that.
Definitely. So you were able to like definitely. So like, did the professors have like office hours for you to just meet them virtually? And I know, did you guys meet, I guess, in group professors? Just kind of, I'm just curious how you were able to engage with your professors. Since
Yes.
I guess it would seem that you would have like more contact, well, more accessibility since it's like in a more virtual, setting, right? Because everyone's at their computers, but yet, you know, I kind of feel like sometimes, like when you're virtual, that means that you have more things on your plate because you don't have to go anywhere. And I think that's kind of that misconception too, that like when you're at home and you're working, like you really don't have anything to do, but it looked like you had 11 billion things to do all at once and keep it all organized. So
Yeah, you have a lot to do, but I would say first semester, okay, I wasn't really too big on going to office hours. Probably should have been better at that, but I would just stay after class because I didn't feel like scheduling. I was just being lazy. Like I didn't feel like having to go schedule a time. Also, I probably didn't even know how to work the website where you sign up. Like it was just, I don't know. I got better with like learning how the websites and stuff work. But yeah, I would just stay after class. Usually they have time after class where you can ask a question, but you can also do office hours as well. And so yeah, I would go to some of those too, probably closer to finals though. I was in office hours more, but yeah, you can just either email them a time or they'll have on the website just sign up slots where you can sign up. And I don't know how they do it because they meet with people back to back to back for hours. And I'm like, wow. But yeah, you can just hop on a Zoom with a professor. If you can bring also someone else with you, so it can be like 2 or 3 of you, your study group on Zoom with them as well. Maybe that can make it less awkward for people. But yeah, that's pretty much how it goes.
Awesome. That's cool. So when you were online, did it make the cold calls any easier? And for folks who don't know what cold calling is, can you explain to them what a cold call is?
Yes, so in law school, we use the Socratic method, which is basically the class kind of helps teach along with the professor. So they're not necessarily always lecturing to you. Sometimes they'll just ask you a random question about the reading material that you were supposed to come prepared to class with. So, like that infamous Legally Blonde scene where she gets cold called the first day and that whole mess. So, yeah. And then how do cold calls work virtually?
Yes.
Um, okay, so I actually think they're probably better virtually because they can,
Really?
yeah, even though I've never done one in person, but my friend and I are always talking about it, how it would work. And when you're virtual, I can like pull up like a Quimby brief right now, and you like the professor probably, it doesn't look like I'm pulling up Quimby, it can look like I'm pulling up my notes. But on in person, I would probably have to come with that brief printed out or something if we have to stand up. I don't know how it works. We'll find out soon. But I think virtually it can be okay. And then also, I'm not feeling everyone staring at me as badly, but it depends on the person. Some people have told me that they're just way more nervous on Zoom because they can literally see everyone flat out. And whereas in person, we would only be looking at the professor, but you have like
Hmm.
gallery view Zoom, you're looking at all the faces looking at you. But I don't really pay attention to like everyone else on the screen. I think, you can have everything just set up here. I'm sitting here calm, I'm comfortable in my home, so the cold call works. And like there's all these like little hacks you can do, tech stuff if you want to get out of it. People have said like, oh, I lost connection and all that stuff. But it hasn't been too bad because I think like also professors that might have been really strict in person in a virtual environment, like maybe they have a bit more sympathy. We just have these little raise hand functions. People are just trying to figure it out. So maybe if a professor in real life would like yell at you or something, I don't think like how are you gonna look, you're in your house on your by yourself yelling at a computer screen, like that makes no sense. So I think they're
Right.
a little more lax on us when we were online.
Okay. Hmm. That's good to know, definitely. So do you already know then that it's gonna be in person
Well,
for
when we
2L or hybrid?
You get to choose if, like, when we chose our classes, it said if it was online, the class was online, if it was in person, and you can like choose that way. I tried to do as many online as I could, but some are in person for me. But I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think the 1Ls, like they're prioritizing 1Ls being in person. So I think they might have like a full hybrid situation. I don't know how that works though. I don't know if it's going to be like multiple days switched off, but I think they're prioritizing them being in person more.
Okay, so that's definitely good to know, folks, especially if you applied for acceptance in fall 2021. That's definitely, good to know. So with that being said, so let's talk about law school environment at Howard versus, the college environment that you had at UCLA. Sorry. Ugh. Um, like, what's the difference? Definitely, like in terms of workload, can we unpack that a little bit in comparisons? Because I think some people kind of have this misconception that, like, once you complete undergrad and you go to law school, it's going to be kind of the same in the sense of like workload, maybe. And I think that might be a little bit of naivete, like, but can you give us the realistic kind of experience in comparing the workload?
Yes. I think the difference is in law school, the workload, you make your own workload. So it's really just having that self-discipline to tell yourself to do the readings, to outline, to go over your notes, to do mastery, which is like studying and just doing like practice problems and things like that. So that's like all on your own. You have to do that all on your own versus in undergrad, you have like mini assignments checking in on that. The transition wasn't too bad on me because UCLA is on the quarter system, and most of my political science classes it really only had like a midterm and final, or only a final, or only a final paper. So that was kind of similar to law school, where everything is just on like one thing at the end of the semester now in law school, but it was quarter system at UCLA. So at UCLA, there's 3 10-week quarters. It's pretty fast-paced learning. So that was kind of similar to how it is in law school. It's definitely fast-paced learning, but it's even more of a bulk. Like literally probably all the information that I would have on a final exam at UCLA, I probably learned that, if not more, in a week of law school. And then it just keeps going. It doesn't stop. So it's definitely a big volume of information. And that's why it's really important to make sure you fully understand it, because after a week goes by, you're going to move on to something else. You're not going to review that, and then it's just going to come back to you at the final, and that's where you got to let everything shine. So I think that's the difference. You definitely need a lot more self-discipline, and it's a big volume of work. So like at first glance, I was just so overwhelmed when I saw everything we would have to know. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, people really do this? Like, oh my gosh. So yeah, that's a major difference. But overall, I think reading in law school is way more important than how I had to read for UCLA. Yeah, reading is pretty important. It's also like a different style of reading. It's like a different type of skimming. But once you read, like, I think after like your first few weeks of class, you kind of get in the groove of reading. It's not too bad, but some classes are just always going to be a pain. So just get through it.
So how many classes did you end up having to take per like semester? Was it like 5?
So at Howard,
Or
we had 7.
oh,
It's a
okay.
lot more than the average school, just because we have legal writing split into 3 classes. We have a research component of legal writing, a legal like writing, and then also a citations class. And additionally, we have legislation regulation as one of our core classes, and I don't think a lot of schools do that either. Some do, but in
Okay,
addition
wow.
to like the other doctrinal ones.
Oh wow, so you guys have 7 classes per semester, correct?
The second semester, we don't have the citations class anymore.
Okay.
So
Okay. Got it. Got it. Got it.
that's a big of a difference.
I was like, oh gosh, I mean, 7 classes. And then, each class is, I mean, you get a lot of like pages. So like how many pages like of reading per class on average would you normally get? Not like when they were kind of like easing you in, you said like the first couple weeks, but
Yeah,
like when you were in the thick of things.
yeah. Um, I would say like low end like 20 pages, and like high end like 100 pages. That's like for the week though. And I read for the week on a good
Yes.
week.
We're gonna come back to that. So I haven't forgotten about that. I really would love to hear. I would love to hear your like strategy behind that. But I wanted to ask you, just I guess in closing our like all things Howard segment. Um, so in one of your YouTube videos, of course I gotta go back to those. I believe it was around the time where we had the George Floyd verdict. You stated that how the Howard law professors like make a point to incorporate like social justice, the social justice aspect in their lectures. So can you tell me a little bit like how does that help you, I guess, absorb the information? Does that help you I guess see the application, right? In real life. Um, I mean, I feel like right now to be in a law, I know in a law class you're probably like, oh gosh, probably not right now because I need a break. But like the law classes, especially when you have cases like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. I think a couple weeks ago we had um someone from UK law kind of touched on Breonna Taylor, said she went to UK, like the impact that that has not only just like on the state, but like in the classroom, right? So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, we were actually learning felony murder in my crim class when the verdict came out. So it was kind of gave me chills, like reading over that stuff. I'm like not, don't think I could do anything crim because I get so emotional, stuff like that. But um, and I think I'm appreciating it now that the semester is over with, but I'm gonna be honest, during the time when you're in class and this stuff is going on, you're kind of just like, well, I think you can look at it two ways. Sometimes I'm like super interested in it, but sometimes if it has been a long week or a long day, I'm just like, oh, can we just get through what we have to do? Because I'm tired, da, 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 da. But honestly, looking back, you really do appreciate that they do take the time to do that. And, I remind myself, this is why I chose the school, because I want this well-rounded curriculum. I don't want to learn the law with blinders on. I want to get the whole picture of it. So, that's definitely helpful. And it's also a lot of Howard lawyers are even at the forefront of cases like this as well. So I just feel like I'm getting like the ultimate experience too. So it can be triggering though, but that's honestly all of law school. There's literally no trigger warnings. You kind of just have to brave it out. So, that stuff, it definitely has made me grow as a person more. But also, again, you could just get to see how the stuff that we're learning, that's also a big difference from undergrad. I feel like in undergrad, I was learning a lot of stuff that was theoretical, it wasn't like practical, real world experience, real world skills. But to be in an environment where you're literally learning something that you could use tomorrow, today, right then and there, that is like, whoa, like, oh shoot, they're really doing this. Like I'm really learning something that people use all the time. So that was definitely a great experience. And yeah, the professors definitely do take a good approach at making sure we talk about stuff like that. And I like that they also let us chime in as well, just because it helps, one, make it seem less like only me and the computer screen, that there's also other people, but it helps me, learn things about my classmates because they'll chime in with like personal experiences as well. And people can like share, oh, wow, I have that in common too. I didn't even know that about you. It probably sounds super small now, but when you're in virtual school, the smallest things that your classmates say, you really grasp onto that because we're so isolated right now.
Wow, that is amazing. That's very, I think, helpful in getting like a perspective of like, I guess their philosophy behind what they're teaching, because it's important to not only engage with students to ensure that they're understanding material, but when see it in real life happening, it's like I think it personalizes the experience, and I think it makes the information, I guess, more internal, I suppose, right? Because you're not only, having to, I guess, read all these pages, right, and understand like these procedures, but you're also seeing it, being applied, and you're also seeing people critique it while it is happening live, which I know was probably a beast within itself. You seeing all of that.
Yeah, when you're learning about, con law and the Constitution, what the president can and can't do, and the next day the then president was doing it, you're just like, what? So it's definitely, I mean, maybe it helped me like really remember the stuff as well because I had like a real event to tie it to. But interesting times we're in, and I guess, and definitely even more interesting time to go to law school now. So
Definitely, definitely. So I got a question in the chat. Can you see, let me see, Howard's available to be a part of. Okay, so can you talk a little bit about Howard's clinic? So you talked about, briefly mentioned at the beginning about, you going through this exploratory phase and just trying to figure out what you want to do. But can you talk about, because I think you mentioned that you might like, do something with one of Howard's clinics. Can you talk a little bit or touch a little bit on that?
yeah, I'm not going to do a clinic next year, but I am interested in, potentially getting involved in it. Um, but Howard has a lot of different clinics. I think they're like all on the website. Off the top of my head, I know a popular one is the Fair Housing Clinic. There's the Criminal Justice Clinic, Reentry Clinic. So we have a lot of different options as well, like IP, intellectual property. So there's a lot. I don't know them all off the top of my head though, I'm sorry. But with the clinics, you work under a professor, and you have like a real case most of the times, or you work in a group and you help people in the community, DC area, for pro bono to, with their cases. So it's a great way to get writing experience, to get client experience, and just real experience, because even though we can apply what we learn in the classroom, but this is like people skills as well. So I think clinics are a great way to get like hands-on experience.
That's awesome. Totally awesome. Okay, so we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit. So you mentioned earlier about, your studying habits, having a schedule, being organized. Can you talk about, your philosophy behind studying? Did your studying habits change after after you studied for the LSAT immensely, or were you able to take some of those skills and kind of bring them over into your law school studying strategy?
Yeah, I think honestly, nothing on the LSAT was really on anything 1L year, but the discipline that it takes to study for the LSAT is the same discipline I had to tap into to study for law school as well. I also studied for the LSAT using like an online platform called LSAT Engine, like through those videos. And so maybe that's like comparable to learning things online, and when professors would have like pre-recorded lectures for us. But I think basically how I studied was similar to undergrad. You just kind of have to know what it takes for you to know something and to learn it. The difference is in law school, you don't only have to know the law, but you have to know how to apply it. And it's harder than it sounds because they don't make it easy on you. They probably think of a scenario that even they couldn't give you a straight answer, but you have to figure out every which way you can analyze it and the possibilities. So that makes it really hard. And you also don't necessarily get asked a question on the exams, but you have to spot the issue and the problem. So if you get a paragraph, or honestly like 2 pages of a scenario, you have to be able to see, okay, this is a legal matter, this is a legal matter, this is a legal matter, this isn't right, this isn't right, this is right, and talk about all that. So it's definitely a different way of thinking, but you still need to be disciplined enough to learn it, because once you learn it, you got it. But that's the hard thing, is learning it. And it's not easy to learn it either.
Definitely. So you touched a little bit on, reading for the week on a good day, or right, on a good day, reading for the
For
week
week,
on a good
yeah.
day. So what does that do for you? Like, I guess with dealing with stress and dealing with all these incoming assignments, how does that help you stay organized? How does it give you like a relatively like decent week?
I think I couldn't do it if I didn't read for the week, honestly, because I think I would get burnt out. But some people could do, it's different. Everyone is different. So you just kind of have to find what works for you. But when I heard someone mention early in orientation that they recommend reading for the week, I just grasped onto that, and it really worked for me. Just because after I would read, then throughout the week I could, chill in between classes, or I could use that time to like do an office hours, get food, because it's hard to have that time for stuff like that, get food, or even study, or like work on a writing assignment, because that's a lot of times people don't allot that in. So having those breaks during the week definitely helped me. And especially because like the readings, like they're important, but they're only the first step. So I kind of just went in like, okay, let me just knock it out, get the gist of what the case is even about, because in class you're just going to be talking about the reading, and you'll get more detailed notes then. So I had a reading notes, and then I would come to class with the reading notes, and then I had a document for class notes, and that's how I would like fill in the blanks with that. But yeah, I would just wake up early in the morning on Saturdays, bust out some reading, same thing on Sunday, bust out the reading. And then I think I also read on Mondays too, but the rest of those days I didn't have to read, and that really helped.
Definitely. So like on your YouTube channel, I think you had like a mini series on orientation. I think you had like 3 or 4 videos. And you talked about how you had to change your schedule to
Mhm.
initially to like accommodate all of the stuff that was coming in. So kind of what was your mindset in setting a schedule? Was it easy or to stick to? Um, just for folks out there that, are thinking about, creating schedules, especially like for the LSAT, I have a schedule that I try to stick to or adhere to religiously. It happens, life happens, right? But how did that like assist you? as well?
Yeah, I think, okay, I had to like, that was a memory that I like forgot about, but I remember now. I think I thought I could do everything in 2 days or something, or like the classes that I had on each day, I had to switch it
Yeah.
around. But I'm really glad that I recognized that early on. But some people have to change their study schedule, in the middle of the semester. Like you said, like life happens, you don't really know. But I think my strategy behind it was to knock it out because I knew that reading wasn't all that you had to do. I knew that I would also have to not only read the stuff, but I had to like study it. I have to make sure that what I just read, I can explain it to someone or I can write it down, like to memorize it in my head. That's kind of how I learn. So I just wanted to knock it out. I'm also a morning person, so I knew that I could do it if it was early. But going in, it's going to be an adjustment, especially coming. There's nothing like this ever. I don't think so. I had to kind of prepare. I was coming off of summer vacation, so it did
Oh
take me a while to
my.
like get back in the groove. But I think like what do they say? 21 days to break a habit or form a new habit. So after like 3 weeks,
Really?
yeah. So once you like get in the groove of it, it's fine. But it gets rough when you add stuff to it. The first few weeks you only have to worry about reading, but then you'll get like a writing assignment and you have to write a memo, and that takes time. So then it's like, okay, the Saturdays where I would usually be reading for civil procedure, I got to get this memo written. So that's why it's nice that I have free time during the week. Things add on. Okay, we had like a citation assignment or just literally the smallest things can throw you off whack. So that's why I think reading for the week, it kind of still gave me that flexibility that even if I didn't finish, I have the rest of the week. But also sometimes professors don't get to all the readings for the week. So I might have been ahead for the next week and things like that. But it doesn't always work for people because sometimes I've heard that people have said that they've forgotten what they read in time for class and they just feel like they need to reread it. Thank goodness that didn't happen to me. I took really good notes. Like I take notes when I read, so I can just look back at my notes and remember what I read about. So it worked for me.
Okay, that's good to know. And I thank you for sharing kind of like the pros and cons of doing that. I didn't think about until you mentioned, yeah, like if you're reading a lot of material all at once, your likelihood of retaining it without, you know, having notes or some structure to kind of help jog your memory, it might actually end up being, I don't want to say all for nothing, but counterproductive.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what it counterproductive. So with all the success that you've had, all of the challenges, all of the navigating, through this experience, how do you deal with imposter syndrome?
I get it every day. It's so bad, but I think I'm getting better at it. But I definitely feel imposter syndrome. How I deal with it is I just remind myself that it's fake. It's imposter syndrome is
Fake
literally
news.
fake. Hmm?
Fake news.
Fake news, it's fake, and it's just like, I don't know if you watch like the show Big Mouth, but it's just like your anxiety mosquito just like around you, and you need to just swat it away because it's not real. But it's important to recognize it. It's definitely it's a valid feeling. And but I would say to people who also like have imposter syndrome to just think of all that you've done like to get to this point and the things that you thought were like so hard in the past. And now you look back and you're like, wow, like I could definitely do that right now. And you're just going through a growing phase. We're in like a transitional phase. If you're applying to law school, it's a transitional phase in life. Things are changing. So it's okay to feel uncomfortable because you're doing something that you've never done before. And it's not supposed to, come easy. I would tell myself, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Like, you got it. It's supposed to be hard. And, just make sure you're doing everything you're supposed to do. It's okay to take a break from things and reach out to your support system, people who can just give you those little words like, you got it, like you're doing so great. Even if in your head you're like, girl, I don't got it. Like it's not going well. Like, but those little words of encouragement for me, like they really did keep me going. So that's what it is. Hopefully, like I'll get better with like the imposter syndrome and stuff like that. But I don't know. I'm kind of worried. I'm going to talk to one of my friends too, who just started like an internship, and she was like venting to me saying, we're doing real stuff. Like I don't know if I can do it. And I was like giving her the words of encouragement as well. Like we got this, and we wouldn't be there. We wouldn't have gotten to any of these places if it wasn't meant to be. So yeah.
So that is Awesome. And that leads to my last question for you. How do you deal with personal care? Right. So I saw some of your YouTube videos, looking at different perfume products and hair care products. Is that more so your therapy and personal care and just making sure that you set aside time for your personal care amidst the papers, the briefs, the cases, whatever else have you? Can you share with us a little bit about that aspect? I don't think people um, talk about it enough. That the personal care aspect, I think, is super important, especially if you're trying to, do well. Definitely, you want to do well in law school, but in order for you to do well, you have to take care of yourself, right, and make sure that mentally and spiritually, you're not deprived.
Yes, it's hard, and you just have to schedule that in. But those little things, like you mentioned, like they really do, like help me out. Even if it's just watching a show, watching a movie, just remind yourself that you're not a machine. Sometimes you kind of wish you were because you could just knock out a bunch of stuff. But
Right.
we're not. We're people. We need to rest and to have joy in life. If I didn't necessarily enjoy every day of class because I was just like, oh, school, but when you get through it and you have those little things that make it worth it. So yeah, even if it was like, just getting my hair done, taking a hot shower, doing a face mask, like whatever I had to do, just and also seeing my family, seeing friends, like that was like, self-care, personal care for me as well. But it's hard. I think you should definitely prioritize it. I think I even had it like in my schedule at first, like literally written out. So I made it a point to do something like to help myself. But it's hard, definitely, yeah, add that in. I think that's just still important as reading, like you have to read all the time. Like you need to do something to fill your cup up because it's rough out here.
Definitely, definitely. So with that being said, I'd like to give you some time to just share your final thoughts or even just mention something that like we didn't cover. I know we covered a lot in this interview, but there's always something else. There's always
Oh
another question.
my.
There's always more. But I
Yeah.
wanted to give you the platform to leave some final thoughts for folks.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. This was such a fun experience. I would just like to say to people out there who are like maybe feeling unsure or just super curious or super eager that, even if you're watching this, just know that you're already doing way more than you need to be and you're on the right track. You're clearly, you take this seriously and you want to just know as much as you can. And whatever you end up doing, you're going to be great at it. You keep working hard. Yeah, it's just definitely the best feeling ever when your hard work pays off. So that's like just when you can be working and you don't even know it, and you end up where you're supposed to end up, and your hard work is going to pay off. All of your greatness is going to be used for the world. So yeah, and if you're about to go to law school, just know that it's hard, but if you made it that far, you'll be fine. And to just stick it out and do your best, and everything's going to be okay. But yeah, oh, and check out my channel if you haven't.
Yes. Definitely. Well, thank you, Jordan, so much for spending time with us. I was totally fangirling. Okay. Sorry
No,
about that. But
I
yes,
love
like
it.
it was totally amazing to hear your perspective and your experience. And hopefully we'll have you back on the channel again because you've got some amazing stuff. You have a lot of great discussions. I saw like your like Howard comparing Howard to Harvard videos. And so you guys should definitely check her out. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.